While the Canadian women secured their berth for the Tokyo Olympics early in 2020, it's now time for the men's. We will talk about Team Canada's chances, their players, the history of the event, and of course make some predictions. It is time to preview the 2020 CONCACAF Men's Olympic Qualifying Championship from a Canadian perspective. Unlike the women, who have qualified for their fourth straight Summer Games, the men have not been to the Olympics since the Games of Los Angeles, 1984. In LA, the Canadians came within a whisker of upsetting Brazil and a place in the semifinals and medal round. It was one of Canada's greatest ever performances at any level. We will break that down later in the episode, something you will not want to miss. The CONCACAF playdowns were supposed to have occurred nearly 1 year to the day, but were delayed until now, for obvious reasons. This is an under-23 tournament. Once at the Olympics, each team will be allowed to add 3 overage players. With 16 nations at the finals in Tokyo, only 2 spots are available for the region of North America, Central America, and Caribbean. As for the draw, it could not have been kinder to the Canadians. Although we avoided heavyweights USA, Mexico, and Costa Rica in the first round, we will need to beat one of those teams to get to the Olympic Games. Canada will play 3 matches in 7 days. An El Salvadorian side awaits in Game 1 on March 19th. Canada play thorn in our side, Haiti, on Monday, March 22nd, and round out the group against the 3-time consecutive successful Olympic qualifications and our nemesis, Honduras, on Thursday, March 25th. The top 2 will get out of the group, and it will be those 2 semifinals that will determine who will become an Olympian. Since this format began in 2004, Canada has made it to that semifinal all but once, but just cannot get past that last hurdle. With a tournament that only happens once every 4 years, let's take a look at what has truly been a history of painful and agonizing heartbreak for Team Canada. At the most recent qualification in 2016, Canada defeated Panama in the group stage to qualify for the semifinal. In that match, they lost to a tough Mexican side 2-0, sending Mexico to Rio. In 2012, the Canucks really should have qualified. They played confident football, drew El Salvador 0-0, then sent shockwaves with an unexpected 2-0 win over USA. In their final group match, they dominated Cuba, but could only manage a single goal. Poised to win 1-0, top the group and set for a winnable semifinal against Honduras, the unthinkable. Against the run of play, Cuba scored a goal out of nowhere, a clinical header from a free kick. It was their only shot on goal the entire match. It left Canada stunned, deadlocked, with no time to respond. Thus, second in the group and a date with Mexico. An extremely talented Mexican side. It was a great match, but Mexico was just too good, 1-3-1. El Tri were so good, in fact, they went on to London and won the gold, beating Brazil 1-0 in the Olympic final. Backtrack now to 2008, and with sights set on Beijing, it was another one of those what-if-only moments for Canadian soccer. They drew Mexico 1-1, hammered Guatemala 5-0, but lost to Haiti 2-1. It was Haiti's only points of the tournament. They finished dead last in the group. The loss to Haiti dropped Canada into second place and a date with the Americans instead of Honduras. Canada would lose 3-0 to a much-fancied USA side, sending the Stars and Stripes to China. And here is the kicker. Guatemala, who won the group, a team that Canada just had demoralized 5-0, drew Honduras in that semifinal 0-0, eventually lost 6-5 in a marathon shootout. We're going to forget about the disastrous 2004 qualification round, which was to get to Athens, Greece. We were winless in 3 matches and only scored 1 goal. On to 2000, and with a different format than what we are familiar with today. We got by a preliminary round in a group that featured Guatemala, Trinidad and Tobago, and Netherlands Antilles. At the finals, we finished bottom in a group of 3, losing to Honduras, drawing USA, and were out. With the 96 games slated for Atlanta, USA was assured a berth. So rather than the regular 2 spots for CONCACAF, reduced the number of spots to 1.5, meaning the runners-up would not be guaranteed a place, unlike all the other years. With the qualifiers held in Edmonton, Alberta, where do you think Canada finished? You are correct. Runners-up. That meant a playoff against the Oceania winners Australia, which we failed miserably at, losing 5-0 in Sydney. Australia were keen to qualify for these finals, considering they were hosts at the next games in 2000. Barcelona 1992. Canada topped their preliminary group of El Salvador and Trinidad and Tobago. In the final stage, each team would play each other twice. Canada drew Mexico, lost to Mexico, drew Honduras, lost to Honduras, then beat USA, lost USA. This put them in third place and once again one spot out of the Olympic Games. For the 1988 Games of Seoul, South Korea, a preliminary round was home and away to USA. We beat the Americans 2-0 at home, but lost 3-0 away and were out. USA would easily qualify in their final group and head on to Korea. In 1984, the beginning of our golden era that lasted 2 years, Canada had a massive home and away first round encounter with Mexico. In an Olympic year where professionals could participate, Canada evenly split home and away. This forced a one-game playoff in a neutral location. A 1-0 win in Fort Lauderdale eliminated Mexico. It was one of Canada's finest victories. It would be smooth sailing after that, and Canada would qualify for the 1984 Olympic Games of Los Angeles. At those games, Canada opened with a 1-1 draw against Iraq, lost a tight 1-0 match to Yugoslavia, then, one of our finest moments once again, upset an extremely talented Cameroon side to advance to the knockout round. Against Brazil, Dale Mitchell scored in the 58th minute to make it 1-0 Canada. Only 5 minutes later, Gary Gray made it 2-0. But to everyone's amazement, the offside flag was up. The replay, as you see here, shows it wasn't even close. Gray was well onside. Moments later, Brazil tied it up on a botched clearance. From there, it would remain tied and go on to penalty kicks, where Brazil put on a masterpiece. Oh, what could have been if Gary Gray's goal would have stood. Canada failed in its attempt to qualify in 1980, although the games were eventually boycotted. Montreal hosted in 1976, where Canada finished 13th of 13 teams, failed in 72 and 68, which had been our first two attempts to qualify. Let's go all the way back to 1904. The World's Fair and Games of St. Louis was contested by 3 clubs. Galt FC of Ontario represented Canada and was much better than their American counterparts. Scored 11 times, allowed 0, and were awarded the first official gold medals in Olympic football. CBC television show Murdoch Mysteries actually featured the lead-up matches to the Olympics in the 6th episode of their 10th season. Bend It Like Breckenridge is the only Murdoch Mysteries episode I've ever watched. Let's get back to current events. As for the 2020 edition of Team Canada, there's much they are up against. Hot temperatures, high altitude, and players missing. Many of these players are coming from out of season and haven't played with their clubs, some in 4+ months. For a tournament such as Olympic qualification for coach Mauro Biello, it's not only about prepping 20 players to win soccer games, assembling the squad can be quite difficult. If it was as simple as having Canada's 20 best U23 players in Mexico for this, that would be a dream, but simply is not reality. Can you imagine the squad if age-eligible players Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David were on the pitch? There are a number of factors that can complicate who will actually play. Firstly, clubs hold the right to hold players back. This kept midfielder Harry Payton, who plays for Ross County of the Scottish Premiership, from coming. Secondly, Canada is facing a unique situation where both World Cup and Olympic qualification are occurring at practically the same time. Priority is given to John Herdman and his quest for Qatar, obviously. So, if a player can help the men's national team, they'll be in Florida prepping to play Bermuda and not here in Mexico. Thirdly, Toronto FC had an outbreak that kept a few players from making this trip. That list included Liam Fraser. In addition to ones already listed, Alistair Johnson, Kamel Miller, Gutierrez, Theo Carbonneau will not be playing. Now that we have exhausted the list of players who will not be making the journey, who in fact will be there. The majority come from MLS, a few from CPL, and a handful from Europe. Nearly half the roster is made up of Vancouver Whitecaps and Club de Foot Montreal. Derek Cornelius is the most experienced, the defender having played 13 times for the senior men's national team. Michael Baldissimo will be important in the midfield. Tajon Buchanan was Canada's Youth Player of the Year in 2020 and plays his club side with New England Revolution. Offense will be expected from Balou Tabla. For Cavalry fans, it will be exciting to see David Norman and Mo Farzi on the roster, even though their playing time may be limited. 5 players from Europe include Marcus Godinho, Charles Andreas Bream, and Lucas Diaz. There is excitement brewing around Diaz, the striker who is eligible to also play for Portugal given his birthright. But with Portugal eliminated, Diaz could not pass up the chance to become an Olympian representing the Maple Leaf. With 14 of 16 spots claimed, CONCACAF was the only region left. Here are the teams already bound for Tokyo. An interesting note on location of play. Estadio Jalisco of Guadalajara, where Canada will play 2 of its group matches and a potential semifinal. This 55,000-seat arena, although empty this week, holds an interesting FIFA record. It's the stadium that hosted a single World Cup team more than any other. And that team is Brazil. Pelé and the Seleção played 5 of their 6 matches en route to lifting the 1970 trophy, and then again played all 5 of their matches of the 1986 World Cup here, for a total of 10 times Brazil playing. Time for predictions. Canada will make it out of the group for a 4th successive time. Them and Honduras will come through to play against Mexico and Costa Rica in a crossover. It will be Mexico and the in-season Costa Ricans that will go through to Tokyo. But the beauty about U23s is that the teams that have success are not always obvious. Mexico, USA are not automatic qualifiers, actually far from it. Although it could very well be the Americans and not Costa Ricans who get there. The Americans are tired of not qualifying for the Olympics, and after missing World Cup in 2018 Russia, will be desperate to return to the Olympic Games. Of course, with the exception of the Dominican Republic, I wouldn't put it past any of these teams to qualify, as anything can happen game 90-minute showdown. Let's hope it will be Canada, who will lay the many ghosts of the past to rest. I hope you enjoyed a look at Canada's past history at the Games, and if you subscribe and like this video, I can promise you there are more videos to come. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the 2020 CONCACAF Men's Olympic Qualifying Championship.